Okay, do I regret Shenhe? The quick answer is no, but it's a little complicated. So, Shenhe at this point is very useful. However, she's not like insanely useful to the point where it's like, wow, I can't wait to use Shenhe. You know, it's not like even Ayaka, I would say I have a better confidence in saying I don't regret pulling, right? And I barely use Ayaka. This character, I feel like, is literally on the verge of being replaced on all of her teams, and you're never using this character again. The only reason this character has relevance right now is because Miss Coffee is a cryo character who does damage off field, and if you're using a cryo main DPS, Shenhe is able to provide like 500,000 damage from her E skill and stuff, so it's a good damage buff. However, she's not like that good, you know, like we have other options that we can go ahead and use. So Shenhe is not a true amazing character. Now, this is really something I might have wanted to say for Skirk, but I really don't feel like the answer is going to change much because really, I don't think that Shenhe is going to be like some massive damage buffer, right? I really don't think that Skirk is going to be stuck on Shenhe. I think Shenhe will probably still be Skirk's best teammate. However, after that, I don't think so. I think after that, it's just like whatever. You can do whatever you want. You have the world. You are the king or whatever. I don't know. One thing to note is that I don't have a weapon, right? So that is a decent amount of attack that I'm completely missing, but that is also a lot of ER that I have from, you know, a nice little free bit of, you know, ER damage, right? And also we can talk about, you know, but again, you can't really get more attack percent on Shenhe, but you can get more ER, right? I can, you know, sacrifice some crit rate rolls and stuff for, you know, some energy recharge, right? I can replace that. You know, Shenhe isn't like a character who needs to crit, right? So yeah, Calamity Queller, you know, if I get it when I summon for her weapon or when I summon for Skirk's weapon, it'll be nice. But if I don't get it, I'm not going to be super upset because this character, she is legitimately on the verge of just completely falling off most of her teams, right? I mean, even on Risley, I like Risley Melt way more than his, you know, freeze teams. I think it just does way more damage, right? You know, so I don't use Shenhe with Risley, right? And that was a huge thing. A lot of people like using Shenhe with Risley, mainly, you know, Shenhe with C6, right? And this is one thing we can talk about. Her constellations are bad, right? Her constellations, even her weapon, I feel like is kind of bad. I haven't necessarily looked at the damage differences that it provides, but her constellations, like, oh, 15% crit damage, like in this day and age, that isn't, that isn't, you know. But I mean, it does give her Q skill some extra duration, which is nice. I mean, 18-second duration, that's really good, right? So not truly amazed, but you know, we have this. It's, you know, overall, I would say. So yeah, her overall constellations aren't like the newer character constellations where Miss Coffee is going to give you a 60% crit damage just from her C1 alone. It's important to note that, you know, newer characters are going to stomp on Shenhe when they eventually come out. And let's, you know, talk about the elephant in the room. We have, Shineznaya or Nod Karai, whatever it is, you know, and I imagine that's going to be pretty freeze adjacent at least, right? I imagine, you know, so I'm not so sure that this character is going to survive. I'm just going to flat out tell you. I mean, when I see her banner, I'll be able to tell you guys should you summon, but, you know, just a preemptive no. Just a preemptive no, a very, very preemptive, a slightly, you know, not really preemptive, but, you know, only preemptive because it could have good 4 stars on the banner. No, don't do it. Don't get this character. This character, one, it's not like, oh, Miss Coffee, oh, she's niche, you know, you could get her, she's really strong, right? This character is she's good. She's good when you're running Hydro and Cryo characters, right? Or you don't necessarily have to run Hydro characters with her. You can just run Cryo. But yeah, it's not too great. And I think a big thing with her is like 80 cost energy is pretty high, man. Like we go to, you know, Miss Coffee 60 cost, right? And, you know, Miss Coffee can do, I've had her do 150,000 with her burst, and that's level 8. So yeah, I don't want to, you know, say anything, but if we were to look at Shenhe and we were to look at Miss Coffee, there's a clear winner. And even, you know, just for cryo characters in general, Miss Coffee is so much better, right? Like if we look at, you know, characters that is like, oh, Shenhe, who is she buffing? She's buffing cryo characters. Okay, good. Now, who are we using with Shenhe, and in what teams are we sort of using Shenhe with? Well, you're not using her with Melt Risley, so it would be Freeze Risley. You want to know who's better for Freeze Risley? Miss Coffee. We're not going to use Melt Ayaka? All right, so let's look at, Shenhe and Ayaka. Okay, not awful. Shenhe's able to do 2 E skills. It's pretty nice. But Miss Coffee. And it doesn't help that Shenhe gets benefit off of having Miss Coffee because she can use the Icy Quills too. Miss Coffee can go ahead and use the Icy Quills too. So it effectively doubles Shenhe's buff. So it's not helpful that happens. It's not. But it is a thing that happens. And it's just like, for cryo characters, if you need a buffer, just get Sea Lolly. Just get Sea Lolly. It is genuinely just the better, niche buffer for cryo characters. Even if you're not using a full cryo team, or you're not using a full cryo hydra team, right? Let's say you are using someone, let me get her passive up. Let's say you're only getting the 15% res shred here. I would still probably say that's probably better than, Shenhe here, right? Because one, Shenhe, her E skill damage, it's gonna, give you some damage, but Miss Coffee's gonna have like 800,000 damage off field, just a simple 800,000 damage. So yeah, I can't say that too. And also, well, one good thing I could say about Shenhe, she's easy to farm because you can have Gladiator and then a 2-piece attack set, which isn't really hard to come by. But you can also say the same thing with Miss Coffee because she has one of the most resin efficient domains here. I mean, even, if we look at, characters, right? You could use MH on Ayaka, by the way. You can. It does work. You have to use Furina with her from that point onward, but you can do that. So MH is a genuinely very valuable set, and it's very, very good to have so many sets of. I mean, you use MH with Risley, and then you're also farming Miss Coffee. Overall, you're better off, just Miss Coffee in general. All right, I just, I don't want to hate on Shenhe, right? But you do have to just look to the left. I'm looking to my left. This is the right for you guys. But look to, I guess, right and be like, well, that character's there. And then look to your left. That's Miss Coffee. And she's like 3 times better. You would go to the left. Just a quick video. There's not really much else to talk about Shenhe. She just is a character that is literally the #1 character right now, I feel like, in line to be replaced on teams. It just genuinely is, because she's old. There's not really a way to upgrade her, right? It's not like, let's say Bennett, right? Let's say Bennett. This character, not really a way to upgrade her as you would think. However, let's say you don't have an attack buffer, and then like a really strong attack scaler comes out. Bennett gets a buff from that. Shenhe is always a flat buff, right? Shenhe is always a flat buff. There's no like, oh, the modifiers. Now, the damage bonuses and crit damage matters, but if we're being honest, most characters have the same amount of damage bonuses and crit damage on their teams, and it just kind of ends up being the same kind of buff, especially since most cryo teams at this point are just running the same team. It legitimately is just running the same team. Sure, your characters might have different crit damage, but it's legit just the same team. It's not like Bennett where it's like, oh, we have an attack deficiency on the team. That means Bennett is going to be really, really strong to buff up our, DPS. Yeah, it's not like that. Because Shenhe, she's going to be like, oh, we have a flat damage bonus deficiency on our team. Go ahead and add the damage. That's all it is, guys. That's all it is. There's not really another way, unless we get a character who has like 600% crit damage. I think, 600% crit damage would be very, fortuitous for you. I hope I'm using that word right. But it'll be very beneficial for Shenhe, right? If we had a character like that, or maybe a huge damage bonus. However, that is so far out of reach, I don't think we're ever going to see it. At least not in the next year. We're gonna see that. I mean, I don't even think we've seen really, like, we haven't even normalized 300% crit damage builds, right? We haven't even done that. We can look at, the trend that they're setting for, artifact sets, like, oh, 40% here. Oh, I thought I had a image, 36% here, right? We can see the trend that they're setting. They're going to keep updating and making the new artifact sets slightly stronger. It's not, something that I'm looking at and like, it's bad, but Shenhe's not going to be saved by some artifact set, being a little better. Actually, hold on. She might be saved by an artifact set that just makes her better, right? Just give the character a load of attack, And, you know, maybe trade off, you know, you can't crit. You can't crit, but you'll get 300% attack, you know, literally as the passive, you can't crit 300% attack or something like that. Now that's pretty massive, right? I doubt that that's, you know, actually going to be worth it on, you know, or I doubt that that's actually going to happen, right? I don't think that that's actually going to happen, but it could, right? Like if we got something like that, or maybe, you know, 80% extra attack. I don't know, just something simple, something nice, right? If you can't crit, or, you know, maybe I really don't know what the artifacts that would look like, but it would have to be something that massively increases her attack and allows her to grow her buff, right? But I don't think that we're going to see this because this character is a 2.0 character. We have moved beyond this character. Simply as that. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.